There are wounds that no one can see. There are words people speak over themselves in anger, fear, and hopelessness without realizing they are opening doors to darkness. Today, you will hear the testimony of someone who once walked deep into satanic practices and witnessed the destructive power of self-curses firsthand. This is not just a story about the occult. It is a warning about the danger of negative words, hatred toward oneself, and spiritual bondage that silently destroys lives from within. But it is also a message of hope, freedom, and the power of breaking every chain through truth and faith. Many people never realize that some of the greatest battles in life begin with the words they speak over themselves every single day. An ex-Satanist once revealed that the enemy does not always start by attacking from the outside, because he first wants people to destroy themselves from within. That destruction often begins with simple sentences spoken during moments of pain, anger, disappointment, or fear. People say things like, "I am worthless," "Nothing good will ever happen to me," or "I will never escape this struggle." At first, these words may seem harmless because they are spoken casually or emotionally. But over time, those repeated statements begin to shape the heart, influence the mind, and weaken the spirit in ways most people never expect. Words are powerful because they carry belief, emotion, and agreement. When someone constantly speaks defeat over their own life, they slowly begin to believe that defeat is their destiny. The ex-Satanist explained that darkness feeds on hopelessness because hopeless people stop fighting for their future. A person who repeatedly calls themselves broken will eventually stop searching for healing. A person who constantly says they are unwanted may begin pushing away every opportunity for love and connection. The danger is not only emotional, because negative words can slowly build invisible chains around a person's identity. Those chains make people feel trapped in fear, shame, insecurity, and despair until they no longer recognize their own value. Some people are smiling in public while privately cursing themselves every night. They replay past failures in their minds and convince themselves they will never recover. They compare their lives to others and speak words filled with bitterness and self-hatred. What they do not understand is that every destructive confession strengthens the darkness already trying to consume them. The enemy wants people to agree with lies because agreement gives those lies power. Once a person accepts the belief that they are hopeless, weak, or beyond redemption, they begin surrendering their future without realizing it. That is why negative words should never be treated lightly, because they can slowly poison the soul from the inside out. But the powerful truth is this: the same mouth that speaks curses can also speak life. No matter how many years someone has spent tearing themselves down, freedom can begin the moment they choose different words. Instead of speaking failure, they can declare strength. Instead of repeating shame, they can speak healing and restoration. The chains of darkness begin to break when a person refuses to agree with destruction any longer. Every human being has value, purpose, and the ability to rise above their pain. The journey toward freedom starts when people stop cursing themselves and start believing that their life was created for something greater. Never allow your own words to become the weapon that destroys your future. The ex-Satanist explained that darkness rarely enters a person's life all at once, because it often grows slowly through pain, fear, and emotional wounds that are left unhealed. Many people think spiritual battles begin with dramatic events, but they often begin in quiet moments of rejection, loneliness, and disappointment. When someone carries deep guilt or unresolved anger, they can slowly become vulnerable to destructive influences without even realizing it. Fear begins whispering lies into their thoughts until those lies start feeling like truth. Bitterness begins hardening the heart until peace and joy feel impossible to reach. Darkness thrives in places where people lose hope, because hopelessness weakens the desire to fight for freedom. One of the greatest dangers is agreement with negative thoughts and destructive beliefs. The ex-Satanist revealed that darkness becomes stronger when people accept lies about their identity and future. When someone believes they are beyond forgiveness, they stop seeking healing. When someone believes they are worthless, they stop seeing purpose in their life. Shame becomes a prison that keeps the mind trapped in constant torment and self-condemnation. Fear convinces people that change is impossible and that they will always remain broken. Over time, these thoughts create spiritual exhaustion that drains strength, confidence, and the courage needed to move forward in life. Many people do not understand how dangerous bitterness can become when it is allowed to grow unchecked. Hurt can slowly transform into anger, and anger can turn into hatred toward oneself and others. The ex-Satanist described how darkness feeds on these emotions because they separate people from peace, love, and hope. A wounded heart that refuses healing often becomes vulnerable to destructive choices and toxic patterns. Some people begin isolating themselves because they no longer trust anyone around them. Others become consumed with fear and anxiety because they feel trapped by their past mistakes. What begins as emotional pain can slowly become spiritual bondage that controls every area of a person's life. But no matter how deep the darkness becomes, freedom is always possible for the person willing to confront the lies they have accepted. Healing begins when people stop agreeing with fear and start embracing truth. A person is not defined by past failures, painful memories, or the voices that tried to tear them down. Every chain of bitterness, shame, and hopelessness can be broken when someone chooses forgiveness, faith, and courage over despair. The moment people realize they still have purpose is the moment darkness begins losing its power over them. Light always becomes stronger when a person decides to fight for healing instead of surrendering to pain. Do not let pain become the doorway that steals your future and your peace. The ex-Satanist shared that the most powerful moment in his life was not when he entered darkness, but when he finally realized he did not have to remain there forever. Many people believe they are too broken to change because they have spent years trapped in fear, shame, addiction, or self-hatred. They convince themselves that freedom belongs to someone else and not to them. But the truth is that no chain is stronger than the power of a transformed mind and spirit. The moment a person decides to reject the lies that once controlled them, the process of freedom begins. That decision may seem small at first, but it becomes the turning point that changes the direction of an entire life. Breaking self-curses begins with changing the words spoken over your own future. A person cannot continue speaking defeat and expect to live with hope and confidence. The ex-Satanist explained that darkness loses power when people stop agreeing with destruction and begin speaking truth instead. Instead of saying, "I will never recover," a person must declare that healing is possible. Instead of saying, "My life has no value," they must recognize that every life carries purpose and meaning. These words are not empty motivation because they shape belief, influence actions, and strengthen the heart during difficult moments. When truth replaces lies, the mind slowly begins breaking free from years of fear and hopelessness. Freedom also requires the courage to let go of the past and stop living under the weight of guilt and regret. Many people remain trapped because they constantly replay their failures and painful memories in their minds. The ex-Satanist revealed that darkness wants people chained to yesterday, because a person focused only on past mistakes will struggle to see a future filled with hope. Healing begins when people understand that mistakes do not have to define their identity forever. Every new day brings another opportunity to rise again, grow stronger, and rebuild what was once broken. No matter how deep the pain may be, restoration becomes possible when someone chooses faith over despair and perseverance over surrender. There is incredible power in choosing light when darkness once felt stronger. A person who once believed they were defeated can become living proof that transformation is real. The chains of fear begin to break when courage replaces insecurity. The chains of shame begin to fall when people embrace forgiveness and truth. Every step toward healing weakens the hold that darkness once had over the mind and spirit. The ex-Satanist's testimony reminds us that freedom is not reserved for perfect people, because it is available to anyone willing to reject lies and fight for a new beginning. The journey may not happen overnight, but every step toward truth leads closer to peace, purpose, and spiritual freedom. Your past may explain your pain, but it does not have the power to determine your future. As we come to the end of this message, remember that the greatest battle many people face is not always around them but within them. The words you speak, the beliefs you accept, and the pain you hold on to can either lead you toward darkness or guide you toward freedom. The testimony of this ex-Satanist reminds us that self-curses, fear, bitterness, and hopelessness are dangerous chains that slowly destroy lives from the inside out. But it also reminds us that no life is beyond restoration, and no person is beyond hope. You have the power to reject every lie that says you are worthless, defeated, or beyond healing. You can choose to speak life instead of destruction, faith instead of fear, and hope instead of despair. No matter what your past looks like, your future can still be transformed. Darkness loses its power when a person decides to rise, believe truth, and walk toward healing. Do not curse your future with your own words when you were created to live in freedom, purpose, and victory.